right, so we are, or I am, going to be making cinnamon rolls, which are a type of quick bread because we will be using the leavening agent of baking powder. So basically I've measured everything out. I have 2 cups of flour that I've lightly spooned and leveled off. I have 1 tablespoon of baking powder, which is going to be our leavening agent. I have 2 teaspoons of sugar. They are in separate piles, just like the flour. I have my salt. I then have 1/4 cup of butter, which you want to be nice and chilled because we'll be using the pastry blender for that and cutting in, and then 3/4 cup of milk. Basically what it says is we are going to stir the flour. So once I've seen your piles of flour, you're gonna put them into a large mixing bowl. We are not using the electric mixer this time because I feel that not everybody may have an electric mixer at home. So I'd like to show you a recipe without using the electric mixer. Okay, so I'm just taking all of my dry ingredients, the garbage down here. I'm going to stir them with a wooden spoon. And then I'm going to cut in the butter. You could use shortening if you'd like as well, using something called a pastry blender. And you use this in a rocking motion. I'm just looking at the time because I don't have that much time, and I just realized I forgot to get another plastic bag out. All right, so you're gonna just pop that in there, and then you're gonna use, so I'm gonna use the leveler so it's gonna get stuck in here. Okay, so the pastry blender is gonna cut the butter into small pieces. And I'm gonna use it in a rocking motion. I'm just going back to where the butter is. Whoops. And it's just gonna cut it into the size of small peas or coarse crumbs. I'm just gonna keep going back and use my small leveler. You could use a fork. You could use anything in your lab to be able to get that out, preferably something that you just used, okay? Or you could maybe use a plastic knife if I have them available. So if you didn't have a pastry blender, you would just use 2 knives. Basically all I'm doing is cutting that butter into small pieces. And that's it. I'm gonna go back, see if I have any other chunks here. And then I'm supposed to be making a well in the center. So I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna form a well, which is just a hole in the middle of my dry ingredients here. I'm gonna use my wooden spoon. I'm gonna pour it all at once, and then what I need is a fork. I'm not using my wooden spoon at this time. And I should be able to stir this. And what should happen is it should form a nice soft dough. And then I'm gonna knead it. It's coming together. So it should all come together. And it's doing that until it comes off the side of the bowl. Look at that. It's doing exactly what the recipe says. It's coming off the side of the bowl. It is a little sticky. It's supposed to be. All right, and then we're gonna flour our surface. So I'm gonna take my flour, I'm gonna flour my surface. I'm not gonna touch my dough yet because it's sticky, so I'm gonna put it all out here. I'm still not gonna get it off my fork. I'm gonna take a little bit more flour. I'm gonna put it on my fork. Okay, and now I'm gonna start the process of kneading. Okay, so I'm just gonna form it all together. And all you do is you push, fold, and turn is the process of kneading. So I'm gonna push with the heels of my hand, fold, and turn. Push, fold, turn. So I kind of go like this. I have a piece that's not quite in there. And it says to do that about 10 to 15 times. I'm a little sticky, so I'm gonna add a little bit more flour. I'm gonna say that's very close to 15. And then I'm going to have my cooking spray out. If you notice, I'm gonna run away for one moment. Ooh, sorry, I should be doing the moonwalk, right? I'm gonna spray. We got about 2 minutes and the bell's gonna ring. A light coating, put that in here. So it's not gonna rise like the pizza. All right, it's not gonna rise until it's baked with a quick bread. So this is just gonna go in the refrigerator, and then day 2, you're gonna take it out. You're gonna notice also, you're gonna be making the filling on day 1, and day 2, you're gonna roll it out, put the filling inside, cut it, and then bake it. So that is day 1 of the cinnamon roll dough. Very simple to make and absolutely delicious on day 2. All right, the other part of day 1 is going to be making your filling, but not the butter, okay? So day 1, you're gonna measure 1/4 cup of your brown sugar. You're gonna pack that, and then we're just gonna use this small bowl. I have 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, and then I have a tablespoon of cinnamon. All you're gonna do is stir that all together. Okay. What I may do, I'm not sure, because I know it's gonna be a lot fresher if it goes into a covered container, because of that brown sugar can get hard overnight. We're probably either gonna put it in a plastic bag or into a container with a nice tight seal. I think I'm just gonna put it in the plastic bag. So what I'm gonna do is so it's gonna be hard for me to get everything in this bowl into that bag. So I'm going to take a large piece of wax paper, put this on my large piece of wax paper, make sure I got all those chunks. Then I'm gonna carefully take this mixture and put it into my bag. Right? You could even then take and smush it around like that, and we'll either label this or just put it right in your bin. So this is going to be done day 1. On day 2, you'll come in, you'll melt your butter, and then you'll see what we do with that. Right? So that's your filling. Again, your dough's going to be done day 1, and your filling's going to be done day 1. Day 2 of cinnamon rolls. I just put my filling in a small bowl that I took out of the sandwich bag. I melted my butter in a custard bowl for about 15 seconds in the microwave, and I have my oven preheated at 450 degrees, and it tells me to flour my surface, lightly flour my surface. So I'm gonna make it a big area, because I'm gonna roll this kind of like into a rectangle. Before I start rolling, I'm just gonna coat it with some flour. So I always like to start, I don't believe it says anything about kneading the dough. Slightly flatten dough with hands, roll out using a rolling pin in like a rectangle. So I'm gonna try to form it in a rectangle first before I start rolling it. Okay, I'm gonna take my rolling pin. Remember, I don't like to use the handles. And I'm gonna roll it, and I'm gonna try to keep it into a rectangle. So I'm just gonna go up and down like this. And basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna brush it with the pastry brush. The butter, I can see actually the butter, the specks of the butter that we use in the cold dough. See how it's kind of like a rectangle. I'm gonna keep checking to make sure I can pick it up, which I can, and I'm gonna spread a little bit more of that dough. Having that rectangular shape is gonna help me when I do try to roll it and then cut it so it's even. All right, I'm gonna keep going. So the goal is to get about anywhere from 10 to 12 cinnamon rolls. What's gonna happen is, like I said, I'm gonna brush it, I'm gonna put the topping inside, I'm gonna roll it up and then cut it. I think I don't wanna go too thin. I'm gonna say I'm kinda good here. All right. I'm gonna now take my pastry brush. So what's new with this, I'm gonna share this with you. I may not need all that topping, okay? So when I just did the test run, I tried a yeast bread. and it did not come out, but it used brown sugar and granulated sugar, and I liked that filling better than my original recipe where I just used the regular granulated sugar. So I'm gonna see what happens. We may just need half the amount of that. And I didn't use all my butter, just did a very light coating there because there's butter in the dough. And then I'm gonna take my topping and I'm gonna spread it all over. Just use your hands for this. This is gonna smell absolutely delicious in the school here. So when you roll this, you wanna make sure you roll it tight so you don't lose all the cinnamon and sugar. I guess I'm gonna use it all. We're gonna see what happens. A lot of cinnamon and sugar. All right, so now I'm gonna take and I'm gonna roll it nice and tight. You see how I'm going from one end to the other. Nice and tight, nice and tight, nice and tight. I'm gonna keep doing this till I get to the end. Nice and tight. I'm getting my fingers underneath there. Remember, I always seem to make everything look easy and then you do it. It's your first time doing this, right? So I always say, wow, that's a great job, because you've never done this before, most of you. Going now, when I get to the end, I'm gonna take the end and I'm gonna push that, and I'm gonna use my fingertips and I'm gonna push that together so it doesn't unravel. I'm gonna take, I have a cutting board over here. Have it go diagonal. I have a cookie sheet that is lined with our parchment paper, and we are using these very sharp knives. So I'm gonna cut off the end because there's really nothing in there, each end piece. And then I said, so I'm gonna go right in the middle. And then, so I'm thinking I'm gonna get 6 and 6. So I'm gonna then go in the middle of that. Then I'm gonna try to make them 3 equal pieces there. 1, so that's 6. I could do the same thing, cut that in half, make that 3, and make that 3. And then you're gonna take this and hold it together tight, and it's gonna go up in the air like that. So these take, I think, about 20 minutes. It says 12 to 15 minutes. So I guess it's 12 to 15 minutes. Haven't made these in a few years. So I'm gonna put it at 12 and then check it from there. I do spread out a little bit and rise because we did use that baking powder. There is some sugar that's coming out. That's okay. I'm just trying to hold it together. I could then take that and sprinkle it up on top. Take that extra. And then there's an icing I will prepare for the class on day 2 as well. And it's just confectionery sugar with a little bit of vanilla and some milk. And that's basically it. So I'm gonna put it in for 12 minutes and then check it from there. It's in a 450 degree oven. So let me put my oven mitts on. And then I'll show you what they look like when they come out. It is gonna smell absolutely delicious in this room though, okay? And I'll show you how to do the icing as well. But I'm gonna clean up my mess first. I just wanna show you how to prepare icing for the cinnamon rolls. There is really no recipe for it, so I kind of just do it by eye. What I have here is powdered sugar or confectionery sugar. I guess I'm gonna take This is probably more than what I need, but I'm gonna see. I have about a half cup of confectionery sugar. I need my milk. Whoopsie. I got it. All right, I'm gonna take just a drop of vanilla, very small amount of vanilla. I'm not even measuring. So let's say that's about a half teaspoon to a teaspoon, just for flavoring. And then I'm gonna just drizzle a very small amount of milk. So the more milk you put in, the thinner it's gonna be. The less milk you put, the thicker it's gonna be, okay? So I'm gonna go, you can make it more like an icing. This is a little bit thicker. I think we're gonna go more like an icing. Or you could go a little bit thinner. I'm gonna go just another drop. Go thinner where it's more pourable. So mine's a little bit thick. My cinnamon buns are about to come out. This one, day 2. You're gonna have tongs, you're gonna have a plate. I'm gonna see if they're actually done or not. God, it smells so good. I think I'm gonna give them 30 more seconds. So what's gonna happen is I'm then gonna just take and just put a little bit of the icing on the top, just using the whisk, right on the hot cookie sheet, and then I'm gonna transfer them to paper plates, and then I'm probably gonna walk around the building and see if anybody wants to try any. Oh my gosh, look at those. Okay, they have a little bit of a golden color. I'm gonna then take, be careful not to touch my pan, and watch what I do. I'm just gonna drizzle some icing. Do a little bit of drizzling. On the top. I usually go a little bit thinner with the icing, but this is more like Cinnabon icing. In class, we may go a little thinner. I'm kind of running out of, or I would just make a little bit more. I'm just gonna go a little drop. I'm in a rush. I've taken the end of the whisk, and that's just basically just melting. I'm gonna go see Miss DeSena. Wants to test it. And what you guys would do is take and just put them on to your plates. Maybe pop them into your mouth. I might have to try one of these. They look so good. Should Miss Sour try one? They look so good. Oh my God, they smell so good. I think I'm gonna go walk around the building with some napkins and some teachers. Are gonna love me for this. So that is cinnamon rolls with Mrs. Sour. They look absolutely delicious. Hope you try to make these at home.
My room smells scrumptious.